Ooh, we on the live stream.
We're going live. We're going live. All right. Okay. Give me a sec to get queued up. All right, everyone. Let's welcome Jack. He's been so nice to dedicate a few minutes of his time today to tell us about his journey. He's a self-made millionaire, and trust me, that time is hard to get. So we should be very grateful that he's come to share some words of wisdom. So let's start off with who you are and where you're from.
My name is Jacqueline Klein. I'm from Oklahoma City. It's where we currently operate our businesses. I was born and raised in Oklahoma, graduated from Anchorage, Alaska, because both my parents are military, and came back to Oklahoma and got a job. And yeah, Oklahoma City.
Fantastic. And just a housekeeping reminder, if anybody has any questions while we're live, go ahead and put that in the chat. And we'll do our best to get to that at the end of the session. Okay, any questions, go ahead and put in the chat. So Jack, what is your big why?
You know, I grew up really, really poor, and I can remember pretty vividly when I was a kid pushing pennies together to buy an ice cream cone, you know, once or twice a year, and that was like really special. And we never ate out because, you know, the average cost to go to a restaurant was like $8, and that was a lot of money. My parents split up when I was about 7, and my mom was a single mom, and it got even harder after that. And it was just like anytime something broke, you have to go into debt to fix it, and then it's just you never catch up. So my mom always said, you know, if you're a good person, good things will happen to you. And so I really believed that until I was about 19. And, you know, I'm 19 years old living at home with my mom, and I was laying in bed one day and I'm like, nothing good is happening to me. And I just kind of got tired of waiting. It's like I realized that nothing's just going to drop in my lap and make me rich. So I literally started Googling, you know, how do you get rich? How do you make money? How do you make money online? How do you start a business? And everything I read always led to a business or real estate. And I mean, I literally just obsessively researched, and I tried affiliate marketing. I tried incentive marketing. I tried buying and selling websites. The first thing that I found that really made me money was selling on eBay. And so I ran a little eBay store, and I started importing stuff from China. And then I started selling on Amazon. And then eventually I started selling locally, like silver coins and P90X and some stuff like that. And then eventually I started selling cars, like flipping cars and cell phones and gaming consoles. And then I did a mobile home. And that mobile home, once I flipped it, I made $950. That was technically my first deal. And I used my cash to buy it for like 3,800 and then sold it for 4,800 and then paid the taxes. And then I worked different jobs, and I worked this job as a correctional officer. And, you know, my peers were saying like, oh, you're so lucky. You're going to be able to get a retirement check when you're 42, and then you can go off and do something else. And like for them, that was exciting. For me, that scared me. Like, I'm going to be stuck here for 20 years and this is my life now. And so luckily, 9 months into that job, I met an inmate that told me to read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I'd read like 3 books in my life. And anyways, he handed it to me and he's like, I think this book will change your life. And I read it in 2 days. And within 3 months, I left that small town and I moved to Oklahoma City and tried to get into real estate any way I could. And I didn't even know how to learn back then. So I thought I was going to go to college and get like a finance or marketing degree with a minor in real estate. So up in Edmond, UCO has a minor in real estate program. And so I thought I was going to go there, but I didn't want to get into like student loan debt or anything. So I started working jobs. I worked at 7-Eleven and Jimmy John's and car salesman for a couple of weeks and all these weird different jobs. And finally, I started calling all the We Buy Houses signs and all the Craigslist ads back before Facebook Marketplace existed. And I was like, all these We Buy Houses people, I'm looking for a job. And my standard back then was $12 an hour. Like, will anyone hire me for $12 an hour? this is like 2011, 2012. And finally, this investor hired me. He paid me $1,500 a month. And I started doing dispositions for him. And I did that for like 7 months. And I learned a lot. I always thought that these real estate investor association meetings, the RIA meetings, I thought they were like private invite only. So I never went because I was never invited. And like I thought it was like you had to be invited to go there. It's like it's all a little bunch of friends, but I didn't know there was like 50 to 100 people every meeting. But anyways, I finally went because my job told me to, and then I learned about title, and I learned the whole process of going to an appointment, putting a deal under contract, selling it, and title and closings and all that. And I started putting out my own "We Buy Houses" signs, and I got lucky. On my first 100 signs, this realtor called me and sold me a burnout. She said, "We need $20,000. It caught on fire a couple months ago, and then the seller's mom passed away the month after that. So they're just going through a really rough time." She's like, "I need $20,000. Take it or leave it." And I took it to the RIA, and it was a fire damage house. So I was like, "Do you do fire damage houses? Do you do fire damage houses? Do you do fire damage houses?" And they finally pointed me to this guy that does fire damage houses. And I didn't know that asking for money was a skill. I didn't know how to ask for money. So I was just like, "Could you give me $2,000? And he said yes. And so that was my first wholesale deal in 2013. And then I started looking for my own house to buy with like an FHA or conventional loan. And I finally bought my first house in May of 2013. And that's where it all started.
Wow. I mean, I love your origin story. It just proves to people once again that you don't need to come from a trust fund to make it in real estate. If you have the knowledge, you have the hunger, and even, oh my gosh, one of your, people staying in the jail gave you a book. I mean,
Yeah,
people don't
literally.
realize that you can get the best advice from anyone if you're just open to it. I just love that story. Well, I'm gonna remember that forever. So, how did you transition from wholesaling to wholetailing? What is wholetailing?
So the journey has been long, but I really tried to wholesale and bird dog a lot in 2013, and I quit my job, and I just kind of attached to one buyer, and like he just he took care of me and gave me some money for marketing and stuff, and then he would always get first dibs, and if he didn't want something, I'd go sell it to somebody else and start meeting other buyers. And then anyways, there's a whole lot that happened before the wholetailing started, but in about 2017, I was already wholesaling full time again. And I had this deal that I knew was a great deal. I thought that I could probably sell it for over 100,000, and I had it under contract for 75,000. And I put it out to my buyers list, the email blast, and nobody wanted to pay more than like 80,000. So I was going to make a $5,000 profit on a quick wholesale. And I'm like, "You guys are crazy. This is a great deal." And it was already fully remodeled and everything. Like they just wanted out of it, but they wanted out of it in 2 weeks. So this is the first time I tried selling stuff like on Zillow, like wholesale deals on Zillow. And so I put it on Zillow, and this guy like ended up wanting to buy it, but he needed to use a VA loan. And back then, VA loans were taking like 30 days, and the sellers needed to close in 2 weeks. So I'm like, how am I going to close on this in 2 weeks when my buyer needs 30 days? And so a local hard money lender went out and looked at it. And he said, "Geez, this is a great deal. I'll give you 75,000." And so I paid him like 12% interest and 4 points on that first one, and closed on the deal, and ended up selling it to that VA buyer for $105,000.
Wow, way to go.
So instead of making $5,000 on a wholesale, I think I ended up netting like 26,000 or something like that after paying the hard money fees, the origination, closing costs, blah blah blah. So
That's a huge difference. Wow, what a swing. And then I'm guessing you haven't looked back since then.
I mean, yeah, not really. I mean, I haven't found anything better than wholesaling and buying rentals.
Can you just break down the term wholetailing for people that don't know what it is?
Okay, so most of you guys know what a wholesale is. You put something under contract, let's say for 50,000, and then you find someone that wants to buy it for 55,000, and you keep the middle. The 5,000 in the middle is your wholesale fee or your assignment, or if you double close, you'll have a little bit of fees in there. Wholesale, okay, and then you know what a retail flip is. A retail flip is where you buy it, fix it up, and sell it to an end buyer that's going to live in it. Wholesale is in between a wholesale and a retail. It's like we might buy it and just clean it up, take the trash out, maybe take away the scary. We've put roofs on houses before, but usually it's just cleaning up the trash and taking away the scary, and then taking professional pictures, even if it's still like, it still needs paint and flooring and it still needs some love, but the professional pictures really change the whole feel of the deal. And then we'll put it on the MLS, and somebody will pay us more than the typical buyer would. So let's say our cash buyers are going to buy it at 80% minus repairs. Our average wholesale, we're selling it 100% minus repairs to someone that's going to live in it, or maybe they're only doing 1 or 2 flips or 1 or 2 rentals a year. So they're just willing to pay more, making our profits bigger on a wholesale than on a wholesale. Also, like, we've had deals where it's kind of hard to get in because it's tenant occupied or owner occupied, or maybe the owner needs more time to close. Or like, we had one a couple months ago where the seller was building a house and he needed to live in the house for another 2 or 3 months. So we ended up buying the house and renting it back to him for $1,000 a month, until he was ready to move for his house being built. And then our buyer came in and closed in after. But we had those 2 or 3 months to go look for a buyer, and we didn't even clean that one or anything, because they knew that the owner was moving out, and just gave us more time to look for a buyer that was willing to pay the price that we wanted. So what I love most about wholesaling is it gives you time to go look for a buyer, and you can also put it on the MLS because you own it.
Do you already have a buyer pool that says, Jack, when you're done with your next house, sell it to me or my cousin or somebody?
Yeah, I mean, we have an email list of cash buyers, and we're very plugged into our local community, and we know who the biggest buyers are and who the most volume buyers are, and they're all looking for a deal, and a deal is different to different people. Like, some people like this certain area or this certain area, and then we have a certain buyer that just buys Airbnbs, and we have another one that prefers like Southside houses under 1,000 square feet. He's not afraid of 1 bed and 2 bed houses, but it has to be under a certain dollar point. And then you have your flippers that are like over 100,000. So I think like it's been a crazy market the last year where like you just get any deal, put it on the MLS, and someone's going to buy it. It's just like throw spaghetti at the wall and it's going to stick. But whenever I started wholesaling, 8, 9, 9.5 years ago, you really had to build relationships with your buyers and get to know their preferences and what they like to buy and where they like to buy and how they like to buy. And you kind of get a feel for what different people like. And yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, definitely. So on the selling side, how do you get your leads right now?
Right now, we buy from wholesalers a lot, and like whenever a landlord has a property come vacant, they just don't want to fix it. Just kind of some word of mouth from being plugged into the community here and going to all the events and RIAs and whatever. We also used to put out those "We Buy Houses" signs, and we would do 800 to 1,000 per month, and that would usually bring a deal every 4 to 5 weeks. I slowed down a little bit at the beginning of this year because I feel like the market has really shifted since June. Like after June, a lot of people backed out of deals in July and August, and interest rates started going up like crazy. And so I've kind of like put a halt to it as our buyers are kind of becoming cautious or kind of waiting to see what happens. And I think it discouraged people. And I think that because we're investors, we know when the interest rate's going up and we really feel that. But I think for the general population and for our sellers to know that, it's going to take 5 or 6 months for them to catch up with what's really happening, for them to feel it. But I think that next year will be a really good time to buy single family rentals. And I think apartments will come behind that, but I don't know.
Sure. So Ed has a question. He says, how Jack, how do you acquire your properties? It's kind of related to the leads question. Is it through direct mail, cold calls, tax deeds? So the wholesaling you use, that's not in-house, it's someone else outside of your team, or is it inside your team?
The wholesaling piece of it.
Yeah, the lead generation part.
Okay, so lead generation. We've been doing this for 9.5 years. So we've grown to the point where like people just send us deals all the time. I mean, I'm probably on like over 100 different buyers lists. So I get emails every day and I spend a lot of my time evaluating deals and just looking at what people send me. And we buy from wholesalers and then we either turn it into a rental or we flip it or we wholesale it. So before June, that was a huge source of our income, was buying from wholesalers that just needed the quick cash, the 5, 10, 15. I mean, don't think it's just a small amount. We had one wholesaler make $64,000 on an assignment. Um, and then we went off and put it on the MLS and sold it for another like 15 to 18,000 in profit. So it's good for them, or it's great for the wholesaler and it's good for us. And then we get to do more volume. Like we had 15 to 20 houses under contract. But for us, like we don't typically do like direct to seller marketing as much anymore, especially with how hot the market's been. But we are starting to now. Like we're looking back into direct mail and we put out some bandit signs. Anything you like, it all works. People are always like, what's the best marketing? What's the best direct to seller marketing? Is it cold calling? Is it text messaging? Is it PPC? Is it direct mail? Is it bandit signs? But I think the honest truth is that they all work. They're just different. So maybe cold calling and text messaging is cheaper. Like you can hit more people, but you're also going to have more prospecting. Like someone that answers a cold call or a cold text is going to be way different than the quality of lead that you get from mail or from a bandit sign. So I prefer the warm leads. So we always did bandit signs. And then before we did bandit signs, we did direct mail. But the last year has been very, very competitive. So I feel like mail has become less and less effective. But I think it's still just as effective. It's just your cost per deal has went up. So, before you used to be able to send 700 postcards and get a deal or two. Now it's like 4,000, 5,000 to get a deal, maybe, but
Wow.
different pieces convert differently and every market's different too. But I don't know.
So just to recap, what are your top 3 favorite marketing techniques when you were doing direct to seller? And what's one that you would recommend people not to do anymore?
I prefer bandit signs and direct mail because when someone calls a sign or replies to mail, they're most likely very serious and actually like ready to sell. And you can nurture those leads. And if they called you, then they're really thinking about selling and they're really serious. And back when we were doing like mostly direct to seller, the average deal took a month of follow up before actually closing. So I'd say direct mail and bandit signs. The third one, I mean, word of mouth and RIAs. Like go talk to new wholesalers and go do joint ventures. Like I've probably done I don't know, a couple dozen deals with people like it was their first or second deal where they're just not really confident to go do their own deal, but they're starting to send marketing or talk to sellers. And they just have this feeling of like they don't know what to say. So I like to sit next to people and kind of go through a script with them and talk to the seller and just tell them like, hey, they're just another human on the other side of the phone. Just
Yeah.
talk to them and get to know what is their situation.
Oh,
Why are they needing to sell and do they have enough equity? Uh-oh. Are you
you're
lagging?
back. You're back. You're good now.
Yep. So what would be a third one? I think I've seen a lot of people have success with text messaging with like launch control or batch leads. I myself haven't done it. I'm not very technical, but uh, the people that I see that are doing like full-time direct to seller on a large scale, they're all doing cold calling and text messaging. Um, I don't know what marketing I would recommend not to do because I think they all work. Maybe I would recommend not doing pay per click until you're like really rolling because pay per click can be very expensive and add up really quickly. But
Makes sense, yeah. But how do you, if you're on 100 buyers list, let's say somebody just wants to get on 5 lists. They join a RIA, what else can they do to get on these buyer lists?
join all the groups. So every market has a wholesaler group, a rehab group, a real estate group. Like for me, it'd be like Oklahoma real estate, Oklahoma realtors, Oklahoma City, buy sell trade groups even sometimes have houses in them. Oklahoma City realtor, Oklahoma City wholesale group, Oklahoma City deals. I mean, there's dozens of ones in every major city that they can join and just go on there. And anytime someone post a deal, even if I'm not interested in the deal, I drop my email and people will like other people will pull that. So imagine like Facebook has probably been the biggest one for getting on buyers lists. Because anytime someone has a deal come up, you put your email and then other people, as they're building their buyers list, they will go look for those emails that people have dropped in those Facebook groups, and you'll just get added to random buyers list. Sometimes it can be annoying because they'll add you to a buyers list from a different state, or like Investor Lift has been sending us a lot of stuff from just like random states, and it's like you spend a little bit of time deleting those, but it's just like sifting for gold because every once in a while you'll get a good deal in there, like oh, so.
Let's look, Ed has another question. He said, do you target only SFRs or do you ever come across apartment deals, or are there specific wholesalers for apartment deals?
I think that you could specifically market for apartment deals, and you could pull a list of apartment owners and try and hit some mom and pops, but um, we don't typically come across multifamily. I mean, like you hear about them. Like I was at the title company last week and I heard of like someone we know, and they were buying a self-storage unit. And then there's like other people that we hear about buying apartments, and it's just rarer, I guess. But I've really been thinking about this a lot lately, that you find what you're looking for. If you're looking for businesses for sale, you'll see it. If you're looking for single family houses for sale, you'll see that. You'll find it. If you're looking for apartments, you're gonna find more of that. But I guess I just haven't really been looking until, lately, and now I'm aware of when people are buying them and seeing them, but I myself don't have any apartments yet. So
So can you describe your team and how you constructed it over the last 9 years?
um okay, so for the first several years, there was usually like a main buyer. And I think that's a good way to start, is either work for someone, with someone, um, or work closely with a buyer, like one of the main buyers, and just kind of like my buyers became my mentors. And so for the first few years, that was about it. It was just me bird dogging, looking for deals, and getting really close to these buyers and saying, hey, look, I found this deal for 62. Could you pay 65? And if I could make 3 grand, I could buy my marketing, make my living, learn a lot, and keep going. Um, and then in 2017 was when I first started like putting together a team. And I had a girl that, I'd pay her like $600 for every house she sold. And that was me being non-committal to like having a full-time person, because it was like commission only. So $600 per house that she sells. And she also sold cars for me and was kind of my dispo manager. And then my first acquisition manager, uh, I just needed someone to watch over my leads while I was traveling. I went to Europe for like 26 days, and I needed someone to look over my leads. And so I told him, while I'm out of town, I'll give you 30% of any deal. While I'm in town, you get 20% of any deal. And so again, commission only. And he worked out really well for several months. We did some deals together and I learned a lot. And then I found another acquisition manager that was just incredible. She made 15% on every single deal, and then $1,000 if I closed on it for either a wholesale or a rental. And we did a lot of deals together, and it was really great for a long time. And then she got offered like 90,000 a year to go train Frontier Airlines people. So she moved away, and then it was back to just me and those other two. And then 2018, I lived in Thailand for 9 months. So I kind of shut everything down and then restarted again at the end of 2018, like November 2018. I bought like 5,000 bandit signs and just kind of like, I'm like, all right, no way out. You got to put these 5,000 signs out now. And then now it's just me and Me and Emily.
Oh, hi, Emily.
Emily is my secret weapon. She's a
Oh, awesome.
badass. She does everything. She's like operations manager, dispositions, transaction coordinator, um, just boss.
Excellent, excellent. Certified badass. We all need one.
He said certified badass. We all need one. Yeah, she's great. And we work really well together. Our personalities, like she's very like she can look at a spreadsheet and she can evaluate a deal and message like 5 different people and transact, like coordinate with deals and be on the phone and take care of her kids all at the same time.
Wow.
And I and I'm over here like, what am I doing again? And so she kind of like focuses me too. So it's great.
Well, people that are watching this, they're wondering what's the best way someone can get into the business and also make a team like you have.
I mean, just do deals. Like if you have good money, like I have friends that have 6-figure jobs, and I think that you should use that job to buy your first few rentals. So if you have nothing, I believe like there's a book called Set for Life. It's like a Bigger Pockets book called Set for Life. And I really like that book because it talks about saving money and kind of setting yourself up. And I used to convince myself that for every dollar you save is 3 minutes that you don't have to be at a job. And so I got really, really good at saving money, probably to a fault where I'm like too minimalist. But saving money has allowed me to not have a job. And when you don't have a job, you can go to every single meeting, you can go to every single RIA, you can spend all of your time like in your head thinking about how am I going to get the next deal and talking to people about how to get deals. And then you eventually go from learning to doing to becoming. And so I always told myself like wholesaling is not something I'm trying to learn. It's who I'm becoming. It's who I am. And then once you integrate that as I am a apartment investor, I am a wholesaler, I am a real estate investor, you start to do the things that are in line with that belief. And so, what was the question? Sorry, ADD.
Oh, no. So yeah, once someone gets, how does someone, you
Oh
said
yeah,
just get in and do a deal. That's the best way. Just jump in somehow, right?
yeah. So if you have a job, use your job to go buy a deal. If you don't have a job, then go meet the people that are doing deals and ask them in person. I think it's better to do it with someone locally and say, man, how can we JV on a deal? How can we do a deal together? Um, And I mean, wholesaling, I love wholesaling because it's so simple. You literally find a deal, put it under contract, and then go talk to these buyers at these RIAs and make friends with them and say, hey, would you pay 90,000 for this? And let's say that you have it under contract for 80,000 and you ask them, would you pay 90,000 for this? And they're going to say yes or no. And if they say no, then I always used to ask, okay, well, what could you pay? And if you don't want to buy it at all, let me know why don't you want to buy it, or why can't you pay 90,000? And then kind of like ask them, how did they get to their numbers, what would they pay? And then you start to learn on a deal by deal basis, and then you start to like build your mind on like different scenarios, like, oh man, I remember they didn't want to buy this one because it was the biggest house in the neighborhood. Oh, I remember they didn't want to buy this one because it didn't really make sense as a flip and the numbers are too high for it to be a rental. Oh, they didn't like this one because the floor plan was weird. They didn't like this one because it was on a main street. um, they prefer this one better because it's brick and it's 3 bed, 2 bath, 2 car garage. And you start to like just build your memory bank to where you know it subconsciously what is and isn't a deal. And then you learn the numbers and then help other people buy deals by wholesaling, and then eventually buy your own rentals. But I always wholesaled. I mean, literally from 2013, 14, 15, 16. I wholesaled for 4 years before I bought a rental. And everyone was saying like buy rentals, buy rentals, buy rentals. I wish I would have listened sooner, because I'd be worth a lot more. But rentals is really what changed my life and a lot of other people's lives, because just the appreciation in the last 3 years has been stupid. And the ability you have to refinance properties and use that cash tax free really opens up a lot of doors. Like imagine if you bought 10 single family properties in the next year and then refinance them in bulk, and then use the cash that you pull off of that to go buy a multifamily. I think that's really doable. And you learn so much by doing wholesaling. That's another reason I started wholesaling, is because I wanted to learn. You learn so much when you wholesale a property, because when you wholesale, you're literally just getting paper and selling your paper. But when you wholesale, you're learning about how to manage utilities and insurance and the different bills that comes with that, and closing costs, and money coming in and money going out, and tracking profits and taxes. And then you start to get into the point where you need a bookkeeper, and then you start looking into like, okay, what if I file as an S corp? How do I save on taxes? And it's just like, it just goes on and on and on and on. So I guess that's the long drawn out answer, but just go buy a house and never stop learning, and make friends with people that are doing what you want to do, and hang out with them, because you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And just watch their success, and reverse engineer it and deconstruct it, and like think of, how can I do what they did? And do I want to do what they did and live the kind of life that they're living? Because sometimes it looks pretty on the outside and it's really stressful AF and hard and a lot more work than it's worth. So it's like, what are your goals and where do you want to head? Where do you want to go? So
That's a great explanation. Can you just tell everyone how big of a radius do you cover? Is it like driving distance? Is it miles from home? What is it?
I just say the OKC metro. So
Mhm.
we have like lots of like little towns around here. Like we have like Bethany, War Acres, Edmond, Moore, Yukon, Choctaw, Norman. I mean, I would say it's probably within 20 miles of downtown. Just try and stay where people want to buy, because where people want to buy is going to be the best appreciating areas, the most desirable areas. So they always teach realtors like condition, location, and price. The fourth one that I added is desirability. So just buy where it's desirable, and you can, get a good enough deal that you could be in it for 80% of the value and have 20% of equity for, to increase your net worth and to be able to refinance and whatever. So I'd say,
Definitely. I think if anybody that's watching this probably needs to watch it about 3 times and take notes. Don't miss a thing this man is saying. It's so valuable. So let's keep it light. What's one fun fact people should know about you?
fun fact. Um, I lived in Thailand for 9 months of 2018. And I wouldn't have been able to do that without real estate. I bought my first rental in 2016. And so imagine, like, I just wanted to get out of the rat race. Most people have read Rich Dad Poor Dad. It talks about getting out of the rat race. So there's 2 ways to do it. You increase income or you decrease expenses, but you can only decrease your expenses so much. So if you live in another country, like Thailand, I feel like I lived upper middle class for $800 a month, and I had 2 rentals paid off. So imagine I took all the wholesaling income from the first 5 years or 4 years and paid off a couple rentals, and then the rental income was, let's say, 1,500, and my expenses were 800. I technically retired at 27 years old. So I don't
That's
know, it's kind of a
amazing.
cool fact.
That's amazing. That's fun and educational fact.
Thank
So,
you.
people are going to be watching this on the replay. So, how can people get a hold of you? What's the easiest way? Please let us know.
Jacqueline Klein on Instagram or Facebook. I'm probably more active on Facebook, and you could even just message me on Messenger. I have a lot of people messaging me, but I'll get to it eventually, either today or tomorrow. And yeah, Jacqueline Klein, JAKAWAN.
Is there a website or anything like that?
Nope, just Facebook.
Okay. And if they're in the OKC, just look for the bandit signs.
Yeah, look for the Jack buys houses signs.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for lending your time and your knowledge and the value. So many golden nuggets in this session that we had. Really appreciate you, Jack and Emily, and your team for
Yeah, you too,
putting
man.
this journey together for people to make it seem achievable for them if they just put their heart and focus into it.
It's very achievable and doable. Just go buy a house and then go buy another one and then buy another one and wholesale one and flip one and just keep going.
And the 2 books he recommended was Rich Dad, Poor Dad and Set for Life.
Set for life. Yep,
Yeah.
that's a good one too.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, if anybody needs to get a hold of him, Jakawan, Jakawan, Klein, Klein
EIN.
on Instagram and Facebook. Or you can just type a comment in the chat. All right. So we're gonna sign off. Thanks again. Really appreciate it.
Yep, you too, man. Thank you.
We'll catch up with you in the future, and I'm sure your numbers have exponentially grown by then.
Awesome, man. Thank you, you too.
Thanks
All right,
so
see ya.
much, Jack. All right,
Yep,
peace.
bye.